welcome to Let Them Talk. Where's my camera? There it is. I'm Paul DeRienzo, and this is Let Them Talk. And it's just me and you today because we are celebrating Election Day in the United States. Now, it's rare that people really take any interest at all in the midterm election. I mean, especially in big cities like New York, where folks are mostly focused on the primary, the Democratic primary, long over. New York City especially, and mostly, the four-year presidential elections where everybody gets so excited, whether it's an Obama or a Trump or what have you. But we've had Donald Trump for 2 years, and we've had 2 years of programming where we've talked about Trump quite a bit on this program, so we all know that he is a controversial figure, for sure. And we all, being from New York, those who are watching on television and those who are watching on the internet might know that this is broadcast in New York City, to Manhattan mostly, and that we are, we know Donald Trump. What can I tell you? We know the guy, and we know that I think it's no mystery his proclivities. And what's funny is here he was sort of like, one of these Playboy Mansion liberals in a way. But he always had a problem with race, right? That was always, he was a racist, basically. And it came out the most during the, when he'd pull out a full-page ad calling for the death penalty for the Central Park Five. That was what happened in the early 90s. So, considering the Central Park Five were totally innocent and were, given the old third degree in the station house without their parents present or a lawyer, and forced out of them a nonsensical one of these nonsensical station house confessions. 20% of people in prisons in the United States are probably incorrectly, unfairly convicted. They weren't even convicted. And some of these states, some of the propositions on states, North Dakota has a very interesting proposition. In North Dakota, they're not only voting to legalize marijuana, but the same proposition as legalizing marijuana would automatically expunge the criminal record of anybody who is arrested for something that has become legal. So anybody who gets arrested for anything that has been made legal after they were arrested and convicted will have their conviction expunged. And that is the new thing. And California and Washington State are already talking about that. And there's a lot of pressure here in New York because New York has taken a lot of strides towards legalizing marijuana, although that's not what's on the proposition ballot here. We have 3 propositions in New York City that are very interesting. We'll talk about them in a minute. But behind me is a live map of the elections as they occur. And the key is simple. Red means that the Republicans have won in that district. Deep blue means that the Democrats have won in that district. Pink means that the Republicans are leading, and baby blue, light blue, means that the Democrats are leading. So as you can see, it's 8 o'clock, so polls have closed across the eastern part of the United States, mostly at 8. New York is at 9, really. So New York isn't closing now for a bit, although New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania have all closed. They close at 8. So we might be seeing things happen there, and it's been changing as we watch. So hopefully this map will continue to refresh itself. And as you can see, the Democrats have won 17, the Republicans have won 16, 218 necessary for a majority. And I don't know, people know basic things like the House of Representatives, right? 430. Must be, if 218 is 50% plus 1, so there must be 218 plus 217, right? So 435 seats. So the majority, Democrats just popped up to 18, the Republicans are 16. See, it's changing as we see. But, most of the districts around the cities of the United States where the high populations are Democratic. And in the rural areas, you'll see the rural areas of America are mostly Republican. However, we're seeing some interesting developments. I don't know what it means over here. Whoa, what can I do? I'm trying to, there it is. Where am I? There I am. Oh, okay, I have to figure this out. Now, there's South Carolina. That's interesting. South Carolina is interesting there, right? See the blue? Is that just maybe temporary? But South Carolina is a very conservative state. It's where Colbert comes from, though. Stephen Colbert is from South Carolina, so not everybody from South Carolina is a liberal. Also, notice in Alabama, there it goes, Alabama there's a blue. Democrats won in western Alabama. So that's interesting. And this is an interesting one here in the north. In the north of Kentucky, there is a baby blue. Somebody's leading in the north of Kentucky. Kentucky's as you can see, the rest of the state is very, very red. So that's around the city. Now, that could mean a lot. That could mean a lot. And also, if you see a lot of territory that's red or pink, it doesn't necessarily mean that that represents a lot of people, because those are the more rural areas of these states. And you'll notice that the Democratic areas tend to be concentrated in urban areas. So they might seem like a smaller area, but that's because a lot more people live in them. While in the rural areas, which we've been seeing, up till now, historically been supporting Trump, are in the larger geographical areas. So you'll see this big, like a whole state of Nevada or a state like Utah will look like a giant red blob, but in fact there's only one or two congressional seats in that whole state, because it's not really that highly populated. There's one big city, and the rest small cities, small towns. It's not maybe 6-7 million people in the whole state, and that's like half the population of New York, right, in the whole state. So, and New York City has numerous congressional districts, because the congressional districts are maybe 500,000. I think about 500,000, give or take a few thousand each. According to the Constitution, now getting back to that, is that every 2 years, the entire House of Representatives stands for re-election. And also every 2 years, 1/3 of the Senate stands for re-election. So there's 100 senators, so like 33, 34, I guess it comes down to every 2 years. But the entire House is renewed every 2 years. And of course, the House has special powers. Although it's only there for 2 years, it's the budget making. They have a lot of power over the budget. They write the budget for the whole country. And the Senate has to approve it as well. But and the Senate, of course, is responsible for, as we saw with the Kavanaugh hearings, for confirming presidential appointments to cabinet positions or to the Supreme Court or other judgeships. And there's a few of those. And so the Senate has their power, but also the Senate has the luxury of being in there for 6 years and covering 2 senators per state, while Congress people, representatives, represent population districts. So you can see some of these are strangely, look at for example, look at here, and let me get down here. Oh, look at Georgia, right? See this funny red shape here? Now, that seems a little, that's the result of what you would call gerrymandering. And if you go over here, now North Carolina's got that's up here, has some real problems with gerrymandering as well. And that means the gerrymandering is that the Republican state house, because most of the state houses have been going Republican for the last 10, 20 years. So most of the Republican state houses and legislatures have been slowly reconnoitering and reconfiguring the congressional districts to try and make sure that certain of them stay Republican no matter what happens. And they do that by making them like snake around in all different directions, trying to get the Republican areas and to get around the Democratic areas that might be in the middle. Also, you could use it negatively to split up a Democratic. Take one district, put Democrats in 2 of them with majority Republicans in both. That's the power that a state legislature has, because they're the ones who are usually drawing these crazy-looking mutant congressional districts from gerrymandering. And that's, I guess you can put gerrymandering in the box of what they call voter suppression, right? And voter suppression is what happens when, people try and suppress the vote. What can I tell you? They try and suppress the vote. And some of the worst states, I guess the worst state for that has been Georgia, which is, was Kemp, who's the candidate running against Stacey Abrams, right? This guy Kemp, he is the Secretary of State of Georgia. He's responsible for the voting. And so he was basically slapped down by the courts, who said that he was, requiring IDs and requiring all kinds of, impositions to try and prevent people from being able to vote was illegal. It couldn't be done. So he responded a couple of days ago after that court hearing in Georgia by claiming the Democrats were hacking the election system, right? With no evidence, of course, typical Trump-like thing. No evidence, no proof, just like off the top of his head, boom. And so, I fear, we like Stacey Abrams, we fear that, it's just so crooked there in Georgia that you have to worry. Now look at, you can see up there districts that are going red, and districts that are pink, and districts that are baby blue, and districts that are dark blue, and you can see the numbers above. The Democrats so far have won 22 seats, the Republicans 19, with 218 for a majority. We got a long way to go, because before this program is over in 20 minutes, we're just going to see some of the East Coast states. We're not even going to see New York yet, because that doesn't close till 9, so don't watch this show. If you haven't voted yet, run out the door right now and vote. You got like 40 minutes to vote. So get out there, 50 minutes. You have 49 minutes to get out and vote. All right, just go to where do I vote? Just Google where do I vote, and you'll get a box, and you type in your address, and it'll tell you where to go. And if you voted in the last 10 years and never went back again, guess what? You're still there. So rush over. You have a signature, you sign, you see your old signature when you first registered, and then under it, you sign. They see both signatures are the same. That's all you need in New York. You don't need an ID. You don't need anything. Citizen, nothing. Just go there. If you've registered, vote. All right? Now, what people say, Paul, people know me now. What is this vote business? Paul, all of a sudden you're voting, wearing this and telling people to vote. It's a different type of situation right now. We're in a different situation right now, okay? There are times, even before the Russian Revolution, there were times when Lenin, right, no fool, at all, told the Russians to go vote for the Duma. It doesn't matter who wins. I mean, we get a few people in there. That's great. We got Bernie Sanders, who won. He's in. He won. Bernie Sanders is already in like Flynn, all right? We get a few of those in there. Good thing. But more importantly, right now, it's a question of the survival of democracy. If you've been awake, if you pinch yourself, you've been awake for the last 2 years, you know that what's ever left of the tattered shreds of American democracy are absolutely in the balance right now, right? This is the greatest challenge to American democracy, to the United States democracy, since the end of the Civil War, all right? Everybody's saying that. These are dangerous times, because we've seen these shootings, right? In Pittsburgh, right? Anti-Semitic shootings, Nazis marching through the streets with abandon in Charlottesville, Virginia, killing Heather Heyer. We've had fights here in New York in the streets from this Gavin McGinnis and the rest of these right-wing Proud Boy idiots. These are the brown shirts, the gangsters, the right-wing fascist gangsters of our day, all right? Now, these people are appearing in the mix to such a degree specifically because of Trump. He's calling them out. I'm not even saying that about him. He said it himself. We could find clips and play them. Right? I don't want to do that right now, but we could find clips and play them of Donald Trump just, telling people to go out there and beat up people. The press is the enemy of the people, telling lies like it's with abandon, like it doesn't matter. It's just about voting for me, because it doesn't matter. Nobody is voting for Trump because he tells the truth or the lies. They're voting for him because he's a white supremacist. Get it? He's a white supremacist. He just said, I'm a nationalist, all right? He didn't say I'm a patriot. He said, I'm a nationalist. Why would somebody living in the United States of America, the most diverse nation on the face of the earth, right, call out to be a nationalist? A minority president who couldn't even win the popular vote for president. A guy who said there was 1 million people at his inauguration. I was at his inauguration, all right? I stood there myself during his inauguration speech at the edge of the crowd in the area, right there. I got through all the security. I was on Constitution Avenue. I know D.C. very well. And I was there, And I walked the crowd, and I saw more protesters than I saw people there who wanted to see Trump. All right, I saw more protesters. There were people holding protests, and then when Trump finished his Sturm und Drang El Duce speech, he came rushing in his armored car like 1,000,000 miles an hour. He didn't even slow down. With the frosted windows on both sides, he didn't even see anybody. He didn't want to be said to see anybody. He just like bald-faced lied. All right, so that's to be expected from Trump. Any sort of fascist, I mean, that's how they do things. It's not about the truth or a lie. It's about power. And people sign on with a fascist, with a Trump or a El Duce or a Führer or generals of Argentina or Brazil or any of these places. They sign on, or a Putin. They sign on to these people because they want to be on the side of power. Don't you get it? They want to be on the side of power. They don't care about anything else. And whether they lie or not is a minor issue. So anyway, so this is the type of situation. Democracy's in the balance, so we should go vote. I mean, that's just the way it is. Now, I was explaining that congressional districts are apportioned by state houses, so a lot of them in Republican states like Georgia, where I'm pointing at right now, have very strange, notice it's red too, right? That strange shaped one down there in Georgia. I wonder about that, right? And look for the strange shaped ones, the ones that aren't just a contiguous area but go like this in some sort of weird mutant direction. Those are usually the districts that have been the Republicans have redone in order to gain a victory, and I guess Democrats do it as well in urban districts, but the Republicans have been doing lately, so they're up for it. So, you know, and then voter suppression, that's part of the voter suppression thing. The other thing with voter suppression is, of course, trying to terrorize people from voting, all right, by calling out La Migra or ICE or whatever they call it, and threatening that there's illegal voting when there's no illegal voting. It's the most minor thing that ever happened. It's like nothing, you know. Although I did hear back in 1960, right? Mayor Daley came up with the margin of victory for Jack Kennedy over Nixon in a very, very tight election, right? That was there's some truth to that as well. I mean, Lyndon Johnson was known to find ballot boxes or ballot boxes associated with his political enemies were found floating in the river. Sometimes they were found floating in the river with his political enemies. But that being said, that stealing votes in elections are nothing new in American history. To say that there's some sort of widespread foreign influence, you know, paid for by a Jewish person, George Soros, you know, that's a different story. We're talking about something else here, right? This is much more like Der Fuhrer type stuff. And so that's why you got to worry about Trump. Now, where did Trump go crazy? Where did he like go over the deep end to the dark side? Where did he go from happy-go-lucky dude, you know, who paid hookers to pee on his bed in Moscow? What happened to him, right? Well, you know, I think he likes power. He got a touch. He had a lot of power, but now he's really getting in the big league power, right? And he likes to have those nuclear weapons. Although I hope they keep that button far away from him. Far away, and that's the scary part about Trump. You know, he has, you know, do you know that the United States president can launch a nuclear war on their own orders alone? They don't need a general or Congress or anybody to approve it. They can and are allowed to do that. And you can see him, you know, shredding this Iran nuclear deal. Why is he doing that? I mean, the deal was going all right, and all of a sudden the dude is like, you know, totally trashing it, you know, and talking, you know, just because we don't have the Shah of Iran there anymore to like be the America's policeman draws us in there. We've got to be our own policeman now, and that causes problems with Al Qaeda and all this, Saudi Arabia and all these things. Next, you know, buildings are getting blown up in New York. You know, this is, you know, if we didn't have an imperialist state that went everywhere and tried to take over the world and inherit the British Empire and turn it into some modern-day conquest of the world, maybe we wouldn't be having these problems. If we found a way to make a living on our own without having to steal it from another country, we wouldn't have these problems. And right now, what is he ratcheting up? What's he want a war with China next? You know, what is it with this guy in war? I mean, he just wants to kill and sacrifice other people's children for his own benefit. Let's see. Oh, let's go look at the Midwest. What's happening in the Midwest? Oh my God, look at Texas. Well, Texas, southern Texas, there's no surprise there. That's a Democratic area. But look in the north, around Dallas, looks pretty good. A lot of blue in Texas, that's for sure. All right, of course, Kansas, not much. You know, Kansas is a pretty conservative place. I was just there recently. You can't get more conservative than Kansas. That's true. So I don't know. Very Republican. I mean, that's where John Brown, you know, and I like John Brown, but he was a Republican, that's for sure. Let's look how are we doing? 26 Democrats, 25 Republicans. They're catching up. But I think we're going to be playing this game for a long time to come. See, that whole Northeast area tends to go blue, right? And so we're going to see a lot of these urban districts that are not coming in. We're seeing a lot of rural districts, southern districts. There's Florida. Looks pretty red. I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe we can check what the latest is, trying to interpret what's going on here. I don't know if there's anything really happening. No, I don't see anything numbers. I think it's still pretty early. I think that these, you know, you can't really go too crazy about this. This is going to be going on late into the night. And a lot of the red you see are areas that are conservative. Although look at that big blue area in western Alabama. I'm not sure. I have to look at maps from past elections. I'm not sure what in the South, if there's really that many Democratic areas. And so I'm surprised that part of Alabama is going that way. So let's see what's going on. I don't know where to look. Let's go look at some fake news, right? Let's go look at the enemy of the people, the New York Times, the failing New York Times. What does this show? 31 Democratic senators, 42 Republican senators, 26 Democratic and 25 Republican. That's the same as there. It doesn't look like, it just says here, millions went to the polls to vote in one of the hardest fought, most expensive, and perhaps most consequential midterm elections in American history. All right, polls have closed in more than half of the states, including in a number of high-profile races. All right, so let's see. It's still pretty early. We're just seeing, they've just 20 minutes ago really, I'm trying to see if there's anything here. They're just sort of repeating the last final statements of these candidates as they went to vote themselves, and the cameras are all there. Texas is a test case. First Democratic pickup of the night appears to be in Virginia, where Jennifer Wexton is flouting Representative Barbara Comstock. She's up 16 points with under 60% reporting. So we have a change. The first change of the night in Virginia. Very interesting. Let's see. The House has flipped control only 3 times since 1954. 2 of those times have been in the last 12 years, 2006 and 2010. So we're looking at that. All right. Let's see. Voters are deciding on amending the Constitution of West Virginia to ensure it doesn't contain a right to abortion. Well, it's early, but it looks as if the urban-rural split is just going to keep getting deeper. All right. Bernie Sanders won in Vermont. I've already reported that. And polls are closed in West Virginia. All right. Let's see. 3 minutes ago. Ayanna Pressley has become the first black woman elected to represent Massachusetts in Congress. Expect more barriers broken tonight. Elizabeth Warren wins, as expected. That brings her a step closer to 2020. I guess she's going to run for president, possibly. All right, so that's where we are. Other than that, what they seem to be saying is what it looks like. There's a rural-urban split, and you can see the urban areas of America along the coastal cities there, from the north down to the south, are blue, right? Miami hasn't come in yet. See, in Texas, in Florida, all that red area has much less population than the areas that haven't reported yet. So let's go. Oh, there it is. There it is. See, Miami-Dade County here. There it is. Hasn't come in yet because it's a lot of votes to count. So that sort of counteracts the whole rest of the state. And you see Orlando, which is another big city, is blue. And it's interesting along the north here. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm hoping that Tampa, St. Pete area, Tampa might, look at St. Pete, right? And down south, that's Trump country down there. I didn't down that way a lot. Naples and areas, those are wealthy Trump areas, although I'd be scared of all the oil drilling and stuff that goes out in the Gulf of Mexico, ruining their beaches. They had a big problem with the algal bloom the algae exploded, and it caused a, what do they call it, red tide that destroyed the beaches on the west coast of Florida, and it's because of the destruction of the environment by the sugar companies and other industries in Central Florida and the misuse of the natural resources there. And that I had felt had been really annoying a lot of even conservative folks there in West Florida. But so far I don't see it happening unless we have a nice turnout there in Tampa, St. Pete, in which we hope. So one pink up there in the Upper Peninsula, the UP, right, and northern Michigan, pardon me, northern Michigan here, right, that's a pretty conservative, remote area. Not too many people live, a lot of trees, way more trees than people, and it's already cold up there. I find this interesting here, though, what's going on here in Alabama. Very interesting. And you can see here in Virginia. Is that Virginia? It's hard to tell. That looks like North Carolina. North Carolina, a lot of blue in North Carolina. Look at that. And a big chunk in Virginia is blue, see? And then when this northern area, Northern Virginia by D.C. goes, blue usually, it's a lot of people. Even though it's a small area, it's a lot of people. So we'll see what's happening there. So, and then let's take another look in the west. Oh, we got some more blue in Mississippi is leaning blue. I can't believe it. I've never seen that before in my life. Could Mississippi and Alabama have a strong Democratic turnout? Very unusual. Well, Texas is coming in, and look, a lot of blue in Texas. Texas is changing. It's not the same place it used to be. It's becoming more and more diverse, and you can see that represented in all the blue. Now, I'm not saying I'm a Democrat, but obviously everybody who hates Trump is going Democrat. So this is like I said, it's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about democracy and freedom and a fascist president. And next year or 2 years from now, you could be hearing a totally different thing from me about elections. But today, in the last minute of Let Them Talk, Paul DeRienzo, myself, is urging folks to get out there and vote, and to get out there and to register a decisive victory for the concept of democracy. Because that's what's at stake here. That's what's going on in this election, and that's why it's so important. That's why we're watching it so closely. And as you can see, the Republicans have 30 to the Democrats 28. Don't lose heart. They just picked up a bunch of this stuff in Texas that always is red, and nobody lives there. Those are huge areas of desert country and flat, and just a few small towns and cities, a lot of rich oil men and stuff like that. Don't worry about it. Don't lose heart. We have a long way to go in this election. So thanks for joining Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DeRienzo. We'll see you next week. We're going to have a great show next week. We're going to really break a story next week about what's some terrible things going on right here in our own city. So get ready for that. And I'll see you next week.